There's been a lot in the news lately about speech or free speech. Let me say at the outset that I don't condone or try to justify bullying, but I believe it needs to be addressed in an appropriate manner. Two items that seem to have crossed the wire lately have involved different reactions that have me scratching my head. First was a piece in the Huffington Post about a couple who were arrested at a Cincinnati park. Their festival was being held, and they were arrested for allegedly saying the word crippled. The way it was described is that the woman and her manager were promoting the female comics website, which has as its catchphrase, "I laughed at the crippled girl." Allie Bruner, the comic, suffers from muscular dystrophy and is confined to a wheelchair. When faced with the prospect of having to transport Ms. Bruner to jail, police decided instead to merely cite her for disorderly conduct and release them. The second item involves a 68-year-old grandmother who was taunted and teased while on a school bus that she works at, where she is a monitor, by students who claimed, among other things, that her family committed suicide rather than desiring to spend time with her. This is especially tragic and hit hard because the woman's actual grandson did commit suicide several years ago. As the story unfolds, we find this grandmother back in the spotlight, this time to defend her attackers, who were now receiving death threats, even though they were only middle-aged school children. The common element here seems to be bullying. Perhaps the police in Cincinnati felt they were diverting the situation by arresting the couple. I don't know how Ms. Bruner or her manager explained themselves when accosted. I don't even know if they did explain themselves. Chances are they were merely trying to get publicity, and the police became their all-too-willing accomplices in this matter. The Supreme Court has already ruled that authorities, governmental and otherwise, cannot restrict free speech before it is expressed. There are civil and criminal penalties for expressions of thoughts and ideas that range from mildly annoying to potentially lethal, but we seem to be moving in the direction of some Islamic states where the merest hint of a verse sentiment is punishable by death or imprisonment. We have now come to the notion that somehow we are entitled to not be offended. I grew up in an era where we recited, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt," and some sort of magical incantation against the remarks of classmates and playmates, either to us or about us. We've all learned that that doesn't work. Words do hurt. They do bruise, they maim, they can even kill sometimes. And worse yet, the wounds they inflict heal slowly, if at all. And now we have students who, in an effort to combat bullying, are generating fake Facebook pages and posting YouTube videos and finding themselves suspended for this. Laws prohibiting the use of aliases on social networks. People arrested for expressing their views on political, cultural, and social issues. All this is, while ostensibly attempted to control bullying, is really an attempt to do thought control. Thinking is like faith. If there is no expression, then there is no assurance that it is either genuine or it even exists. If I can limit your expression to that which I find acceptable, then I have a foothold into controlling what or how you think. It starts with simple things that we can all agree on: racial epithets, vulgar names, profanities, and from there I can expand to other areas. I can limit how you express your views on religion, sexual orientation, political viewpoints, all the while claiming that I am protecting some from offense and from bullying. What do? Even when we were repeating sticks and stones while we sniffled, we learned. We learned how to defend ourselves from physical attack. We learned to disarm our verbal attackers with wit and humor. We learned to look at ourselves objectively to see if there was some basis in truth for those mean and evil comments. More importantly, we learned that life was not fair, and that we had come to the conclusion that we were going to be offended from time to time. That is why Karen Klein is the real hero and the winner against her attackers. She was the bus monitor. Yes, the words bruised her. drove her to tears. But even in the midst of pain, she probably knew that they were just children. She knew that bullying the bullies was not the answer. Whether she consciously decided it or not, she used the same approach that Jesus used against those who bullied him. He took away their power by letting them see that all the energy and all the effort that they spent hurting him only led him to his greatest glory, his greatest triumph. They bullied him because they were focused on themselves, didn't consider the signs, they didn't think. We need to equip our children and ourselves with the tools needed to erect a permanent defense against bullying. We need to teach them to think critically, think rationally. We need to learn that there is a transcendent purpose in our lives. Regardless of what someone else may say, we do matter. We need to learn that history tells us that bullies and those who despotically wish to enforce their will over others fail time and time again. My name is Ray Diamond, and this has been Food for Thought. Thank you.